A guy pulls a relatively new SUV into a small independent shop. Not some junker. A clean, well-kept vehicle with a warning light on the dash? Nothing dramatic. He hands over the keys, explains what the light is doing, and waits. The mechanic looks at the vehicle, looks at the badge on the back, and hands the keys right back. Sorry, we don't work on those. The owner is confused. The vehicle runs fine. The shop has lifts, a scan tool, experienced guys on the floor. There is no obvious reason for this, so he asked why. And the mechanic gives him a look like the answer should be obvious. Here is what most people do not understand. There is a massive difference between a shop saying, "We do not want to fix it," and a shop saying, "Taking this job is not worth the risk." The first one is laziness. The second one is a business decision made by someone who has been burned before. There are SUVs on dealership lots right now, selling in huge numbers across the United States, where a single repair can require thousands of dollars in specialized tools, proprietary software, extra liability exposure, or 2 days of teardown just to access one part. And some of these vehicles are so complicated that a shop can do everything right and the car can still refuse to function because a manufacturer's server has not given the new component permission to operate. None of this is on the window sticker, and number 3 on this list has a problem that has nothing to do with the engine at all. Stay with me. If you want to know which cars look great on the lot but become expensive headaches once the warranty runs out, subscribe. That is exactly what this channel is about. Now, before we get into the list, let me explain the 4 reasons a shop might walk away from a vehicle. Because it is never just one thing. The first is liability. If a shop touches a vehicle that already has a known issue and something fails, 3 weeks later, the customer often blames whoever last worked on it, even if the failure has nothing to do with what was repaired. Shops have lost in small claims court over exactly that scenario. The second is access. Modern vehicles can require software authentication, security gateways, module programming, or a live connection to the manufacturer's servers just to complete a repair. A shop can have the right part physically installed and still be completely unable to finish the job without dealer-level tools or authorization. The third is equipment. ADS calibration rigs, high-voltage battery systems, insulated tooling, battery support tables, frame straightening equipment for aluminum structures. Any one of these can represent a 5-figure investment. Many neighborhood shops simply do not have them and cannot justify buying them for occasional jobs. The fourth is economics. A 2-lift day repair on a vehicle with limited parts availability, where the customer might still refuse to pay after seeing the final number, is a job that can sink a small shop's weekly revenue. Saying no is sometimes the most rational business decision a shop owner can make. With that in mind, here are 10 SUVs that some independent mechanics and repair shops around the country have decided are simply not worth taking on. Number 10. Volkswagen Tiguan 2009-2017 2.0T TSI engine. On paper, the Volkswagen Tiguan looks like a sensible import compact SUV. Reasonable price, German engineering, practical size. A lot of people bought them used off lease thinking they were getting a bargain. The issue is the timing system. The 2.0-liter turbocharged engine used in these years relies on a timing chain that sits inside the engine, lubricated by oil. So far, so normal. The problem is that the chain runs through the front of the engine toward the bottom, in a location that requires removing a significant amount of hardware to access. To service it properly, many procedures call for pulling the engine or dropping the subframe to create enough clearance. Now, put yourself behind the service counter. A customer brings in a Tiguan with a rattling noise on cold start. You know what that sound means. The chain tensioner is worn. The timing system needs attention. This is not a quick fix. You are looking at many hours of labor minimum. The parts themselves are not outrageous, but the labor bill is. And if the chain has already been skipping, there may be valve damage you will not know about until you are already deep into the job. If you quote the customer honestly and they walk out to think about it, you have spent diagnostic time on nothing. If you do the job and something else goes wrong with the engine afterward, you are the last one who touched it. Some shops in areas with lots of these on the road have simply stopped accepting Tiguan timing jobs. They will do oil changes, brakes, tires. But for anything involving the timing system on that engine, they send customers straight to the VW dealership. The owner consequence is real. A timing chain repair on this vehicle at a dealership can run into thousands of dollars in labor alone. And if it has been ignored too long and there is valve damage, the repair can approach or exceed the market value of the car. The next vehicle on this list has a different kind of problem. The timing system is not buried. The issue is what happens when the timing system fails. Number 9. Nissan Pathfinder, 2013 to 2021 CVT transmission. The Nissan Pathfinder in these years was a top 10 selling mid-size SUV in the United States. 3 rows, decent cargo space, family-friendly pricing. Nissan sold a lot of them. The transmission in these vehicles is a continuously variable transmission, or CVT. Instead of fixed gear ratios, a CVT uses a belt and pulley system to deliver seamless acceleration. In theory, it is efficient and smooth. In practice, the CVT used in this generation of Pathfinder developed a well-documented reputation for premature failure. Nissan extended the warranty coverage on the CVT in certain models after complaints mounted, which tells you something. When a manufacturer quietly extends coverage beyond the standard terms, it is an acknowledgement that something is happening at a higher than expected rate. The repair challenge here is not access. It is economics and liability combined. A CVT replacement on this vehicle is a major job. The unit itself is expensive. The labor to remove and replace it is substantial. And because CVT failures in this model became widely discussed among owners and technicians, any shop that takes on the job inherits the entire history of that transmission. Imagine you're the shop owner. You do a clean CVT swap. You use a quality remanufactured unit. The customer drives it for 4 months and the new unit starts slipping. Was it a bad remanufactured core? Did the customer ignore the fluid service interval? Was there a torque converter issue that contributed to the original failure and was never addressed? You may never know, but you are the one getting the phone call. A lot of smaller shops have a simple policy on this generation Pathfinder CVT work. They will not touch it unless it is a straightforward fluid service. Anything involving the unit itself goes to a transmission specialist or the dealership. For the owner, that means one thing. If the CVT starts to go and the vehicle is out of warranty, the repair cost can be substantial, and the options for who will actually perform the work are limited. The next one on this list is different. It is not about a specific known failure. It is about what happens when a perfectly normal repair requires software the shop does not have access to. Number 8. BMW X5 xDrive 45e plug-in hybrid. The BMW X5 is aspirational. It looks like money, drives like money, and costs like money. A lot of buyers pick up a used plug-in hybrid version thinking they are getting a premium vehicle with fuel savings built in. And for the first few years, they might be right. Then something happens. A module needs replacement. A battery management controller throws a code. A component in the high-voltage system needs attention. Here is where it gets complicated. BMW uses a proprietary diagnostic and programming system. Without the correct BMW software and a valid subscription, a technician can physically install a replacement module and the vehicle will not recognize it. The component sits there, new, correct, properly installed, and the car acts like it is not there. To complete the programming, the shop needs either BMW's dealer-level diagnostic software or a third-party tool with verified BMW access, both of which carry licensing costs and update requirements. Beyond the software, the plug-in hybrid system adds another layer entirely. High-voltage battery systems require insulated tools, specific safety training, and handling procedures that most general repair shops are not equipped for. The ADS suite on the X5 is another issue. If any calibration-required sensor is disturbed during a repair, which can happen during bodywork, suspension work, or even certain electrical jobs, the shop needs calibration equipment and a clear, flat surface of specific dimensions to bring the system back to factory spec. Now imagine you are running a 4-bay shop in a mid-size American city. You have good technicians, you have a solid scan tool, but you do not have BMW programming access, you do not have high-voltage certification, and you do not have an ADAS calibration rig. You can diagnose the problem. You cannot legally or safely finish the repair. That is not a capability gap. That is an infrastructure gap, and the manufacturer controls what it takes to close it. For the owner out of warranty, repairs on the X5 hybrid that require dealer-level software or high-voltage system work are going to route back to a BMW dealership or a specialized independent BMW shop. Neither one is cheap. Number 7. Ford F-150, 2015 to 2020 aluminum body. This might surprise people. The Ford F-150 is the best-selling vehicle in the United States. Parts are everywhere, mechanics know them. So why would any shop hesitate? Because starting with the 2015 model year, Ford built the F-150 body largely out of military-grade aluminum alloy instead of steel. The frame stayed steel, but the cab, bed, doors, hood, and most body panels are aluminum. That changes everything about collision repair. You cannot use the same equipment. Aluminum and steel cannot share the same welding equipment, the same body hammers, the same dent pullers, or the same work surfaces without risk of contamination. Even microscopic steel particles transferred to aluminum panels can cause galvanic corrosion that destroys the metal from within over time. A shop that does both steel and aluminum work needs completely separate tooling and dedicated work areas. Ford partnered with iCar to develop specific aluminum repair training and certification. Many insurance carriers require that collision work on aluminum body trucks be performed at a certified facility. If a shop is not certified, some insurers will not pay the claim for work done there. Put yourself in the position of a small body shop that has been doing good work for 20 years. A customer brings in a 2018 F-150 with a crunched driver's door after a parking lot incident. You look at it. You know you do not have aluminum certified equipment. If you try to repair it with your existing tools, you risk contamination, structural compromise, and a customer whose insurance company may refuse to cover the repair afterward. Saying no is the right call. The consequence for the truck owner is that their options for collision repair are narrowed to shops with aluminum certification, which tend to be larger facilities with higher overhead and sometimes longer wait times. The next vehicle takes a completely different kind of problem. No collision involved. Just a factory design that makes one of the most routine engine repairs an extraordinarily complicated job. Number 6. Jeep Grand Cherokee, a 2011-2020, a 3.6L Pentastar V6. The Jeep Grand Cherokee has been one of the most popular midsize SUVs in America for decades. The 3.6-liter Pentastar V6 engine that powers many of these is a capable, smooth engine with decent power. Millions of them are on the road. The issue is the cylinder head, and specifically the rocker arm and cam follower failures that a portion of these engines experienced. In some cases, a small plastic rocker arm component failed, causing a loss of valve control on one or more cylinders. What made this difficult was not just the failure itself, but the chain of events that followed it. When a rocker arm fails internally, metal fragments can travel through the oil system. That means the damage is not contained. It spreads. The shop opens up the engine expecting to replace a known failed component and finds that the debris has contaminated the entire lubrication circuit. Bearings, oil passages, potentially the rotating assembly. Now put yourself behind the counter. A customer brings in a Grand Cherokee with a ticking noise and a misfire. You scope it. You pull codes. You suspect a rocker arm failure. You quote a repair. The customer approves it. You get into the engine and realize the damage has already traveled. Now the estimate doubles or triples. The customer is angry. They feel like you misled them. You did not. You told them what you found. But when that happens enough times, some shops start declining these jobs before they begin. The economics simply do not work out. Too many unknowns. Too much liability exposure when the final bill is higher than the original quote. For the owner, this means a repair that starts as a reasonable-sounding engine job can escalate quickly once the shop opens things up. Getting a firm estimate in writing with an escalation clause before any teardown is critical. Number 5. Land Rover Range Rover, 2013-2021. The Range Rover is a status vehicle. Six-figure price on many configurations. The people who buy them expect a certain level of prestige, and they get it. The problem is what happens when something breaks and the vehicle is no longer under the comprehensive warranty. Land Rover electronics are notoriously complex, and the Range Rover is the top of the stack. The terrain management system, air suspension, transfer case, and body control modules all communicate through proprietary networks that require Land Rover-specific diagnostic software to properly interrogate. Air suspension failures are common enough on these vehicles that they are almost a known maintenance item rather than a surprise. The system uses air compressors, air struts, and a network of sensors to adjust ride height automatically. When any component in that system fails, the vehicle can drop to a fixed low position. Replacing the compressor or the struts is not impossible, But resetting the system and verifying that everything is communicating correctly after the repair requires Land Rover diagnostic access. Beyond the electronics, parts availability is a genuine issue. Land Rover's supply chain for independent repair shops is not as straightforward as it is for a domestic brand. Lead times on certain components can stretch. Imagine being the shop owner. The customer wants you to fix the air suspension. You can get the parts. You can do the physical replacement. But you cannot confirm the repair is complete without software you do not have. And if the system throws a related code after the physical repair is done, you are stuck. You cannot clear it. You cannot reinitialize the module. You have to send the customer to a Land Rover dealership anyway, after they have already paid you for part of the job. That is a nightmare scenario. And it happens with enough regularity that many shops in areas where these vehicles are common simply rucked all Range Rover work straight to the dealership from the first phone call. The owner consequence is total dealer dependency for anything beyond routine maintenance, combined with the parts costs and labor rates that come with that territory. Number 4. Chevrolet Traverse, 2009 to 2017, 3.6L V6 timing chain. The Chevrolet Traverse was the full-size family SUV for a generation of American households. 3 rows, plenty of space. GM badge, people trusted it. The 3.6-liter V6 engine used in these years has a timing chain system that is functional when maintained but can develop stretch and wear issues, particularly when oil changes are delayed. Here is the mechanical reality. The engine uses 2 timing chains, 1 primary and 2 secondary, driving 4 separate camshafts. The chains sit inside the front of the engine behind a cover that is not exactly accessible. When the chains stretch, they slap against the guides and you hear a rattle on cold start. If that rattle is ignored, the chain can jump a tooth. When a timing chain jumps on an interference engine, the valves and pistons occupy the same space at different points in time. Metal hits metal. Valves bend. In serious cases, pistons are damaged. Now you are the shop owner. The customer describes a cold start rattle. You already know what this means. The quote for a proper timing chain replacement on this engine, done right, with all the guides, tensioners, and associated hardware, involves many hours of labor. The engine has to be supported, the accessories and front cover removed, and the entire chain system replaced as an assembly. If the customer has been hearing that rattle for months and put off the repair, there is a real chance there is already internal damage. You do not know until you are inside. Some shops will not start this job without a signed acknowledgement from the customer that the final cost may increase significantly, depending on what is found during teardown. Others just decline it outright and send people to a GM dealership or a specialist. The owner consequence is that a timing chain repair on this vehicle that escalates into valve damage can push total repair costs past what the vehicle is worth on the open market. Number 3. Tesla Model Y. Here is the one that has nothing to do with a traditional engine problem. The Tesla Model Y is one of the best-selling vehicles in America, period. Lots of owners, lots of enthusiasm, and then someone needs a collision repair. The Model Y uses a manufacturing technique called a gigacasting, where massive aluminum castings form large structural sections of the vehicle as single pieces. The rear underbody, for example, is cast as one enormous aluminum part rather than being welded together from dozens of stamped steel pieces. This reduces manufacturing complexity and improves structural rigidity. The repair problem is significant. If that rear casting is damaged in a collision, traditional repair methods do not apply. The section cannot be straightened the way a steel frame can. If the damage is severe enough, the entire casting has to be replaced, which involves separating and replacing a structural component that is integral to the vehicle's architecture. The tooling, the process, and the part itself are expensive. Beyond the structure, Tesla controls its own parts supply chain in ways that most manufacturers do not. Independent shops have historically had limited access to certain Tesla body parts. Repair procedures come directly from Tesla, and some repairs require over-the-air software validation after physical work is completed. Imagine you are a body shop owner. A Tesla Model Y comes in with rear-end damage. You look at the gigacasting. You do not have the tooling, the parts access, or the software relationship with Tesla to complete the repair correctly. You can start it, you may not be able to finish it. Some insurers have declared certain Tesla vehicles with structural casting damage a total loss. Not because the damage was catastrophically severe, but because the repair cost given the parts and process requirements, made the economics of fixing it unreasonable. For the Model Y owner, a collision involving the rear casting can mean a significantly longer repair timeline, limited shop options, and in some cases a totaled vehicle where a comparable steel body SUV would have been repairable. The next vehicle on this list has a different problem. The structure is conventional, but getting to the part that needs repair requires something most shops have never budgeted for. Number 2, Mercedes-Benz GLE 350 plug-in hybrid variant. The Mercedes GLE is a benchmark luxury midsize SUV. Buyers expect it to be complicated. It is German. It is luxury. They understand there is sophistication involved. What they may not fully appreciate is how that sophistication changes the repair equation after the warranty expires. The plug-in hybrid GLE uses a high-voltage battery pack integrated into the vehicle's floor structure. When the battery system requires service or when components tied to the high-voltage circuit need replacement, the safety requirements escalate immediately. Shops need technicians certified to work around high-voltage systems. They need insulated tools rated for the voltage levels involved. They need protocols for disabling and isolating the high-voltage system before any work begins. The consequences of getting this wrong are not just financial, they are physical. Beyond the battery, Mercedes uses its own proprietary Exentry diagnostic software for module programming, coding, and adaptation procedures. A shop without licensed access to Exentry cannot complete many repairs on modern Mercedes vehicles, even if the physical work is done correctly. A replacement control module needs to be coded to the vehicle. Certain calibrations require Exentry commands to execute. Without it, the repair is incomplete. Now put yourself in the position of a shop owner who runs a clean operation with good equipment. You do not have high-voltage certification. You do not have an Exentry license. A customer wants you to service the hybrid GLE. You know what it will take. You know you cannot do it safely or completely. The responsible answer is no. For the owner, this creates an almost exclusive dependency on Mercedes dealerships, or a small number of highly specialized independent European shops, for anything involving the drivetrain electronics or battery system. Both charge accordingly. Number 1. Rivian R1S. The Rivian R1S is a full-size electric SUV that entered the American market with serious capabilities and serious ambitions. Off-road capability, impressive range, distinctive design. Buyers paid well above average to get one. It is also one of the most challenging vehicles for independent shops in the United States right now. Start with the basics. The R1S is fully electric, which means the high-voltage battery system is not a supplemental component. It is the entire powertrain. The structural battery pack, which sits in the floor of the vehicle, is a load-bearing element of the body structure. It is not simply swapped out like a traditional battery. It is integrated into the vehicle in a way that makes any service involving it a major structural undertaking. Rivian, like Tesla, controls its own parts supply chain. Independent shops have had limited access to Rivian-specific parts and repair procedures. The company has been building out its own service network, but it is not yet as widespread as traditional manufacturer dealer networks. When an R1S needs significant electrical diagnosis or any work involving the drive units, battery systems, or software systems, the equipment required goes far beyond what even well-equipped independent shops typically own. Proprietary diagnostic tools, high-voltage safety equipment, software that communicates directly with Rivian's systems. Beyond the hardware, the R1S is heavy, really heavy. The vehicle's weight can exceed what older lift equipment is rated for, which is a real issue for shops with older infrastructure. Now think about what this means for the owner. The R1S has a limited and still growing service network. If something goes wrong outside of warranty, outside of a major metro area with a Rivian service center nearby, the options narrow very quickly. A general independent shop cannot safely or completely service the high-voltage system. They may not have the lifts rated for the weight, they almost certainly do not have the proprietary software. The Rivian R1S represents where this entire industry is heading. It is a vehicle where the technology is impressive and the design is intentional, but the repair ecosystem has not yet caught up to the sales volume. And that gap is where owners get hurt. Look back at this list. One problem is a buried timing chain. Another is a stretched CVT with a history of warranty claims. Another is a collision repair that requires aluminum certification. Another is a high-voltage system that demands safety training most shops have never taken. Another is proprietary software that controls whether a repair is even recognized as complete. Every single problem is different, but they all arrive at the same destination: fewer choices for the owner. For decades, one of the great advantages of owning a vehicle past its warranty period was freedom. You could take it anywhere. A good independent shop down the street could handle most things. That independence was worth something real. It kept repair costs competitive. It gave owners leverage. When a vehicle's systems require a manufacturer's software to function, or a proprietary diagnostic connection to complete programming, or equipment that costs more than most shops earn in a quarter, that freedom shrinks. And here's the thing: many of those decisions have legitimate reasons behind them: safety, emissions compliance, anti-theft security, weight reduction, structural efficiency. These are real engineering trade-offs, not arbitrary restrictions. But the real-world consequence is the same regardless of the reason. A vehicle that can only be fully serviced in one place is not just expensive to repair. It is expensive to own and expensive to walk away from. So here's what I would tell anyone shopping for an SUV right now, new or used. Before you sign anything, call 2 independent shops in your area and ask specifically if they work on that make and model. Not just the brand in general, the specific trim level, especially if it is a hybrid or plug-in. If both shops hesitate or say no, that is information you need before the purchase, not after. Look up the vehicle's VIN on the NHTSA website and review any open recalls or technical service bulletins. A recall that has not been completed yet is a problem waiting for you. A pattern of bulletins on a specific system tells you what that system's track record looks like. If you are buying a hybrid or an EV, find out right now how many shops within 20 miles of your home have certified high-voltage technicians, not in general, specifically for that brand. If the answer is 0 or 1, factor that into your decision. Before buying any modern vehicle with ADAS features, radar, cameras, automatic emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, ask who in your area can perform calibrations if those sensors are disturbed. Some calibrations cost several $100s and require equipment most shops do not own. That is a real recurring cost if you ever need bodywork. Finally, for anything with a known timing system issue or documented transmission pattern, search the owner forums before you buy. Not review sites. Actual owner forums where people with 80,000 and 100,000 miles are posting about what broke and what it cost. That is where the real information lives. If you work in a shop or you own one, I want to hear from you in the comments. What is the SUV that made you finally say no? What was the job that convinced you it was not worth taking anymore? And if you own one of the vehicles on this list, I want to know whether an independent shop has ever turned you away. What did they tell you? What did you do? Coming up next on this channel, 10 SUVs that mechanics actually love working on. These are the vehicles that are simple to diagnose, straightforward to repair, have parts on every shelf in the country, and are the kind of cars that experienced technicians buy for their own families. That video is a very different conversation. Subscribe so you do not miss it, and share this one with anyone who is about to make a major vehicle purchase. Because what they do not tell you at the dealership is exactly what they should be telling you.